info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And we're back with the Armstrong Williams Show with the Elder Chicks, Alex and Aaron. Aaron, continue your point.
Okay, yeah, so as I was saying, again, when you compare apples to apples, which is, our cancer rates to theirs, like the medical care for cancer here in the U.S. versus, in countries like Britain, Canada, we end up doing a lot better than they do. And I think really this is a whole problem with a single-payer system, which is what Canada and Britain have and whatnot, is the fact that when you nationalize an industry, you take out the profit motive, and without the profit motive, there's a lot less incentive to work, there's a lot less incentive to produce, and what happens typically is that you have shortages, especially in the area of healthcare, when you have a high influx of demand by making healthcare free, hold on, I put that free in quotes because there's no such thing as a free lunch. You pay for it with tax dollars. And you're going to have an influx of patients, higher demand, but you're going to have less supply since there's less incentive to go into the medical field since there's no profit motive there. And so what happens is then you have shortages, and the only logical outcome would be rationing. When you have rationing, that means people are denied care. You have longer waiting lines, which you have both in Canada and Britain. I could go through example after example of people being denied health care. And so as a result, people who with treatable conditions end up dying because they're denied care. And a lot of those people end up being either the elderly or the very, very young. And I think it's just very inhumane, and why I'm so angry that it's going to happen here. Nothing's done.
Wait a minute, Aaron. Obamacare has nothing to do with single payer.
Oh, yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
There's
it does.
It's not at all the part of it. Obamacare has to do with insurance companies competing for their premiums.
But
if I could just get back to California.
Okay, yeah.
When you're talking about premiums, there happen in California to be 4 levels of premiums. The ones that pay the highest premiums have the lowest out-of-pocket costs. I haven't heard anybody talk about that. The ones that have the lowest premiums will have higher out-of-pocket costs, so that you have a choice of which plan you want. There are 4 levels of plans in California, and there are also federal subsidies, so that some people, if they're at the poverty level, will only have to pay $44 a month for their premium. All premiums are not the same. This is another issue that's not discussed when people are discussing the issue of premiums or exchanges.
Okay, 2 points there. Actually, Obamacare has everything to do with single-payer system because...
What? Namely, it doesn't.
I'm getting there. If you just let me finish, I will get there. Because eventually, Obamacare is essentially a transition bill to single-payer system. And you don't have to take my word for it. Yeah, you don't have to take my word for it. Harry Reid basically said that earlier this week. Obama, there's audio of him saying to the SEIU.
We don't have to take anybody's word for that.
Well,
that's a political statement.
He's a big proponent of Obamacare. He believes in that. And Obama himself told the SEIU a few years ago that single payer was coming in like 5 or 10 years and so. And so Obamacare basically it increases premiums, which it has been so far, and but the point is that it will increase premiums to the point where basically it's going to crowd out the private insurance market and forcing people onto these exchange systems, which I don't think anybody really knows what they are exactly. I don't think even Obama himself knows what they are. And
what an exchange system is?
Yeah, the exchange system. At least the finer points of it. I understand the basic concept of it. But as far as the actual finer point details, I mean, I don't think anybody really knows exactly.
Do.
Really?
The concept of it is that there will be competing, insurance companies will compete.
In a private exchange.
Your whole point.
Oh, there goes the...
yeah, that's the train again. Choo-choo.
The train again's coming through. But go ahead, continue with your point. Go ahead.
Did we just lose them?
Did we lose them?
Interruption there.
Whoops, interruption. Yeah, I think the train came by again. Choo-choo.
But continue. Dr. Reese, was that you?
Well, I was just saying, you know, for someone who's in favor of competition, I don't think you're really getting into what it's really all about, and to try to frighten people by suggesting that it isn't what it seems. It's what people are really in favor with and what's coming down the line. That's really, excuse the expression, it's called dirty pool. It's not a fair argument.
I'm not
Let's talk
trying to
about
frighten.
what people need now and whether they're going to get it, not what something might grow into someday. That's not what we're talking about at all. Do you want to get rid of Social Security?
Well, I feel like Social Security needs to be reformed because it's going bankrupt.
You want to get rid of it?
I'm talking about reforming it so it doesn't go bankrupt.
Okay.
Because it will go bankrupt in 21 years.
Do you want to get rid of it conceptually?
Well, I don't think that's a practicality at this point.
You think we shouldn't have Social Security? Yes or no?
I feel like it needs to be reformed so it doesn't go bankrupt.
A simple yes or no.
I'm answering the question.
No, you're not. I'm not. I didn't ask you if it should be reformed. I asked you if, in concept, you think this country should have no Social Security.
Are you asking if I would have voted against Social Security when it came up to a vote in 1936 when it first was?
No, I think she means now. If we had to get rid of
it.
That's
a good question, Aaron. You probably would have voted against it, right?
Yeah, of course. I would have voted against it.
I see. Okay. Most people who would have or did vote against it don't want to get rid of it. It's far from perfect. It needs a lot of reforming. But most people are very glad there is some kind of safety net. It didn't turn us into a different kind of government altogether.
It was, well, I would say we're a very different government right now than we were back then. I would argue actually we're in a post-constitutional America, but we're starting to get a little off topic here.
Well, we are, but that's because I am disturbed at the idea that we should be talking about Obamacare in a way that gets so far away from what it is now, what it's trying to accomplish now, and the fact that it's become, instead of how do we fix what is terribly wrong with health care and unfair about it in this country, by saying, can we make the kinds of changes at least that Richard Nixon was for, by the way.
I'm not a Nixon fan, so...
Let me tell you that if we get away from that and instead just talk about it politically, we'll never get anywhere. And that's why Washington, I think, is in a gridlock now. Because we're not talking about how do we just fix things. We're talking about which side people are on. And I think that's, frankly, really unhealthy for this country.
I have to agree with that, because one of the biggest problems with this country now, and it's showing through Congress, that what was the record that they broke? 40 years, and they've passed the minimum amount of legislation.
The worst. Mm-hmm.
The worst. It's because everybody's so focused on upholding their party.
But we shouldn't be focused on anything. But we shouldn't be focused on how many laws we pass. If anything, it should be on how many laws we repeal. Because unfortunately, it seems like the more laws being passed, the more the circle of liberty around us is disintegrating. I'm sorry, but I do think Obamacare is a big part of that. And I'm not trying to frighten anyone. I mean, like, I'm just giving my honest opinion of it based on my own research and what I think will happen. I'm happy to talk about the finer details. Like, I mean, what you were talking about the exchanges. I mean, I knew all that already. I mean, I know the basic concept of an exchange system is to have all insurance companies compete and stuff. And so I favor a private exchange system, which is what Utah has. But with the Obamacare exchange system, the plans are all government approved, so it's whatever benefits the government mandates into each insurance company's plan that they put into the exchange, and then I think they actually, when you go into the exchange, I think they actually tell you which plan you should get rather than you choosing it for yourself. And the subsidies themselves, I think, are so.
Who says who chooses? Who tells you which plan you're supposed to take?
Say who tells you that?
Isn't
Who's
the
gonna
government?
tell you
I think the government. My understanding is that the government will be the ones to tell you that. I have to tell.
No,
I didn't hear that.
that's simply not so.
Well, it is so. You can look at the law yourself, but it is so. And as for the subsidies, I mean, like the eligibility requirements for the subsidies were waived, and so now anyone can get the subsidy just on the honor system. So in theory, even though I have health insurance, I could go to an exchange system that will be set up in October, and I could get a subsidy. And the thing about subsidies, too, is that the cost has to come from somewhere. You can't just give away free money like that. Someone else has to pay for that. So the net effects, economically at least, would be zero. And so...
Your thoughts, Dr. Fletcher?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm sorry. I Did you ask me a question?
I was saying your thoughts on Aaron's point here.
I'm having a lot of trouble hearing you. I hear Aaron. I don't hear you. I'm sorry.
Speak up, Alex.
Let me see if I could. I was saying your thoughts on what Aaron was saying.
About. I've told you.
I was talking about the exchange system. I mean.
The exchange.
Yeah,
system.
I was talking about the subsidies and how basically a subsidy has to come from somewhere. So someone else has to. Okay, well, we'll get to that when we come back.
Hi, Mike Reagan here. The president has just delayed his Obamacare employee mandate for 1 year. But nothing has changed. The Congressional Budget Office still predicts 7 million Americans will lose their current insurance, and thousands of rules are being implemented today. Obamacare is over 20,000 pages, almost 3 times longer than the whole IRS tax code. Worse, the IRS is now in charge of enforcing the law. You need to protect yourself, your family, and your business with the easy-to-read guide. It's called the Obamacare Survival Guide, already a #1 New York Times bestseller. Newsmax calls it the best guide to the new law. Get the Obamacare Survival Guide today at bookstores everywhere, or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price by going now to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, on the topic of medicine, some people are thinking that medical treatments could be so advanced to be able to stop, slow, or reverse the aging process so people could live to be 120 years or older. Pew Research Center did a poll asking people if they wanted to live past the age of 120, and 50% of them said no, but 68% thought others would still want to. Now, 128, that's a long time. And
that sounds pretty long to me.
I used to think 90 was a long time, or 100 was a long time.
I still think 90 is a long time.
Yeah, I do too.
Now.
But would you guys want to go push it to the 120 and maybe even further?
You know, I would want to do anything that I can, as far as good health and quality of life. Sure, I would like to live a long time, as long as I am in good health and as long as the quality of my life is good. You're talking about hanging on through feeding tubes, forget it. I'm not interested in that.
I sort of feel the same way, and the other thing is, I think something happens, and I remember my mother, who lived to be a month short of 97, my mother remarking on this too. There is something about losing so many contemporaries that is difficult to adjust to. So that Mother used to sort of laughingly say, when I would ask her about people, she'd say, oh, well, everybody I knew was dead. And she'd laugh because she knew that wasn't exactly so. And, of course, we were all still alive, and she loved her family. But there is something about losing so many contemporaries that feels a little different. And I think, as Dr. Fleischer says, the quality of life is really the biggest part of it. And I don't want to be kept going.
I'd want to be going on my own will.
Right. Yeah. And still able to function in ways that are satisfying and meaningful.
Yes.
But of course, if everybody is living to 128,
oh yeah, I don't want to be
At
left
least.
out.
you don't want to be left behind.
No, and then you have to think about possible overcrowding.
Which was sort of my point about thinking, when I was a child, I didn't know a whole lot of 90-year-olds.
That's true, and with people living longer now, this is what we've been looking at for our forthcoming book. It's not just that people are living longer, but so many are living better. That so many people are still finding interesting things to do and contributions to make to the world and to the people around them. So it's a slightly complicated question and a very interesting one to think about, I think.
It is. My aunt just turned 90 a few months ago, and just seeing the age progression from when I was in the world, seeing her grow old, is pretty daunting. It's pretty scary because you just see things just slowly break down, and you're not as alert as you used to be. So I'm sure in terms of medicine, to live to 120, they would solve these problems and maybe just slow down the process. So maybe around 120 you might start forgetting things, and then 130 it might all start to go downhill. But
I think you could forget about 130 for a long time.
Yeah. And I don't know that I would want to be at 128 under those circumstances.
Yeah, but
it probably will happen.
Might.
It might.
And we've met people also who don't feel as we do, and who are so determined that the idea of leaving this world when there's any chance that they can have more time is something they don't even want to think about.
Your thoughts, Aaron?
How would you feel, do you think?
Well, I think the key thing from that survey there was the fact that the reason why people live to like 120 is because people are able to stop, slow, or reverse the aging process. So in that case, then you wouldn't even start to, you'd end up being a lot more, alert and, moving, fairly quickly and whatnot before you reach 120. And so in that case, I'd be more than happy to live till 120. Even if not, then, there's still a lot of, new things about life to enjoy about as time goes on. A lot of new people to meet, new experiences to see and whatnot. So, I would like to live till 120 if technology permits it.
I mean, look at the people who are 90 today. They went through the Great Depression,
That's
and now
true.
they have iPods.
That's a good point, that a lot of people who are 90 today were like us. I mean, we're not that far from it. We elder chicks. I'm 80, and I'm 82. And I mean 80, not 80 also. I mean I'm 82. 80 plus 2. But we didn't realize, I think, that we'd be so active and about to publish our first book, and busy and in the world and still contributing, we hope, and having you guys actually let us speak. Right. And not cast us aside as just elder chicks with nothing to say.
Well, no, we are always happy to hear from you and have you here on the show, especially to get the older perspective.
And I think it really is something important about this show, and of course Armstrong and you guys, which is that you do want to hear other opinions, even when, as today, we disagree.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think good friends can agree to disagree.
Right.
Plus, it also helps to have
you do it with intelligence.
Exactly.
And you do it with tolerance, and you always do it with good manners.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we do. We do.
I hope we do too. I don't know.
I think we do. Yeah.
But going back to that 120 age, don't you think the world would start suffering from overcrowding, because we already are having issues of overcrowding?
I think so.
You think the whole world would mandate the same law as China did with the one
God
child
forbid.
per family?
Maybe.
I hope not.
By the time we get to that point, we will have expanded our world to include the moon or Mars.
Moon colony.
Or Mars.
Yeah.
I'd be down.
There might be other colonies.
Other places, right.
I've been hearing a lot of activity has been spiked up on researching life on Mars and if it's possible. And they're already thinking about funding private tours.
Absolutely.
For a couple billion.
That may be where humanity goes eventually. I personally would not like the long commute.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to get a
long.
job on Mars.
Yeah, I think you'd have to actually work up there.
Right. Or maybe below the sea. Maybe there's an aquaculture
that's right.
Something.
It might be possible. I know in Mexico they started building buildings going down instead of Oh, here goes the train again.
Choo-choo.
But they've started building apartment complexes that go to basement 26 instead of floor 26 to conserve space. And I think that's very interesting, how we're innovating new ways to house all the new people that are being born onto our planet.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting. But I really, despite what you hear, I really don't think we have an overpopulation problem. In fact, if you look at data that came from the United Nations, if anything, there's an underpopulation problem. That's from UN data, So I mean, we might have to agree to disagree again, but I look at the data and I don't really see all this overpopulation people are talking about.
Well, I don't know. I suppose it depends on the country, how the resources are used and how they're allocated, because there are places where people still have feeding problems.
Yeah, but then there are also vast expanses that are not populated. That I don't know whether population would ruin those places and the ecology of those areas, and how that would affect the ecology of the rest of the planet. But I think that there are possibilities that, of course, haven't even occurred to us.
Exactly. That's what's so wonderful about science.
Yeah.
We don't know where it's going to take us.
Yeah, we might be living on the moon or on Mars, seeing 120, celebrating our 120th birthday. Who knows how
party
far?
on the moon. I'd be down.
There are those new hamburgers.
We're getting a whole lot of trains today on this show. But Elder Chicks, Armstrong Williams Show, Alex and Aaron, we'll be right back.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Crust's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean. Only at a Golden Crust near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrustBakery.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform healthcare? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And we're back. Let's head to the phone lines with Miss Virginia. How you doing, Miss Virginia?
Hi. You have a very interesting conversation going there today.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
a
you.
senior citizen also, and I'm an active senior citizen in my community. And I come from a family that has longevity on both my father's side and my mother's side. My father lived to be 99. My grandmother on my mother's side lived to be 106. She was active and self-sufficient until she was 105. My mother lived into her late 80s. But what bothers me about living that long here in the United States is the issue of the environment. We as a people are so ignorant when it comes to getting the connection between our quality of life and how we treat the environment. If I live to be 100, I don't want to have to put on a gas mask to walk outside. I don't want to have to be afraid to put my feet in a stream because it's polluted. I was listening to the news yesterday, and I saw that there is a water war going on between the state of Florida and the state of Georgia. And I know for years there was a water war going on between the state of South Carolina and North Carolina. So if we're going to come up with all of these medications and treatments to extend the lives of people, I think we should be concentrating on and becoming more interested in educating the general population as a whole, as to the connections between your health, your life, and the environment. I'll hang up and take your comments.
Thank you, Miss Virginia, for your call and your comments.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think to say that we're going to be afraid to put feet in water and have to wear gas masks when we go out is a little bit... That's a little bit out there, I think. I don't think our planet's polluted that bad, and we already have laws on the books against pollution. So that's all I'll say about that. Dr. Fleischer and Dr. Reese, you said you have a new book coming out. Do you want to tell us about that before we go?
First of all, before we do, I do want to say bravo to Miss Virginia, because I agree with every single word she said, and she said it so eloquently.
And I'm so sorry. I could not hear one word that you said.
Well, it was wonderful. It was wonderful, and I totally agree with you.
Oh.
But our book will be out in October, we believe, and it's called The New Senior Woman, and it's about people like Miss Virginia, still active, still caring, still making their voices heard, and leading good, productive lives. And it's the new senior woman reinventing the years beyond retirement, because we're living longer and we want to use these years well.
That is very important. How have you two been reinventing your years as retired?
Well, one is we're writing a book.
And by writing the book, we have been interviewing women all over the country to find out about them, what their concerns are, what they're doing, how they're reinventing their own lives. And we have met such wonderful, fascinating women. We've been having workshops where they have been talking amongst themselves. We've been having these group thinks, as we call them, and it's just remarkable the number of exciting women that are that we have met.
In every walk of life, in every corner of a society. These are not famous, wealthy people. These are people who are making their lives meaningful, though. And it's been very inspiring to us. And if Miss Virginia is still listening, I hope she'll go to www.elderchicks.com and join us in our conversation on the blog, because hers is just the kind of voice we love to hear.
I'm sure she would love to add her voice to the ever-growing collection of voices and comments. It's so beautiful that you guys are still active as you are at your ages. Because I'm thinking of my aunt that recently passed this year, who unfortunately she had dementia, and I feel that the reason why I guess my two aunts started to go in their old age was because they weren't as active as they could be or wanted to be. Do you?
Well, we don't know. I know my mother felt that way, that it was keeping her mind active that prevented her having dementia. But on the other hand, I have known perfectly lively, brilliant minds that develop dementia or Alzheimer's. So I don't think we know yet what makes that happen. But the point is, it's better to use the time well as long as you have it. We don't know who's going to succumb to some of these things. It isn't really the fault of the person who is failing. It can happen to anybody. The point is to use the time you have in a way that is good for you and good for the whole society.
Yeah, that's what's well said. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with your own kind of, it's just kind of how you make it, like if you mentally give up on life, then I think, then the body will kind of follow suit with that. But, if you...
Right. I think that does happen, yes. But I think it's important not to blame the person whose mind starts to disintegrate, because that's often something that a person just can't help. It isn't always just their own withdrawal, although that can contribute in some cases.
Right, because my aunt, I remember she used to always bake a cake every Sunday, and then one day she sort of woke up and she went into the kitchen and tried to put all the ingredients together and started to get frustrated because she couldn't. She couldn't
that's
recall.
So sad.
It is. It's hard to watch.
And she didn't want that to happen, and it wasn't her fault that it happened. Sometimes we expect too much of each other. So
like you said, you never know when it will come. You never know what
if
it will hit. You wake up the next morning, you've forgotten how to do certain things, and you're
that's
trying to.
Right. So every day is important. And
there might have been a minor stroke
right.
during the night that everybody is not always aware of.
Right.
But for the people whose minds do remain sound and who are fortunate enough to have good mental and physical health, I do believe there are things that they can do to keep looking forward and looking outward and being concerned with other people and not just so self-involved that they shut out the world. I think there is a responsibility almost that a person has to themselves or to this gift of life that they have, not to squander it.
Yes, it's very important that during the aging process you do turn outwards, and I'd like to thank a lot of my family members who've also shown me that example. They usually always come bearing gifts and stories, and they always try and share everything that they've experienced and pass it on to the younger generation.
Important. You're very fortunate to have a family that does that.
I
think that's the best gift family can give to younger people, is to show them that they are still interested in life and they are interested in the young people.
Yeah, my family's a lot similar to Alex's, and like we had that show like a couple weeks ago about grandmothers and whatnot. I mean, like my grandparents are still alive. Even though they're getting up there in age, like they still they still are very active and in their community with the family and whatnot. And I'll just say, like as their grandson, I find it to be very inspiring.
That's wonderful. And I'm sure you inspire them.
I like to think
so.
It's
a mutual thing. Mm-hmm. I think the generations really help each other this way.
They do.
Very important, that interaction, that intergenerational action.
because so many lessons are passed down from top to bottom, from the oldest to the youngest, and it's important that families stick together and share the knowledge, because that's the teachers, the school, they come second. Because a lot of the lessons I've learned have all been from family passed down.
I think that's really so true, and you guys are very wise. I think it's amazing that you have so much wisdom at this point in your lives.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, and thank Alex's too. And obviously, you two also seem to be quite wise yourselves. So
thank you.
No problem.
Tell us again the title of the book and where people can pick up a copy.
Well, actually, they can order in advance. It turns out it's already listed on Amazon. It's called The New Senior Woman.
The New Senior Woman.
We're very excited, but we'll let you know when it's actually out in stores. But we have noticed that it's up on the Amazon book website, and people can put in an advance order for when it comes out.
Well, I'm
But
looking.
the publication date is sometime in October, the end of October or beginning of November.
It's sometime in the end of, November's around my birthday, so I'll be looking to pick up a copy of that, pass it on to the rest of my family. It was wonderful talking to you guys this afternoon, Elder Chicks. Alex.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
You too. And thank you so much for having us on your
No problem.
Thank you. Everybody have a good afternoon.